How y'all doing today? This is the Lone Irishman, aka Sean, and this is part 2 in the ongoing odyssey of my escape from the devil people of California, also known as Escape from California, or the Hotel California, I should say, part 2. I got a lot of new subscribers, I got a lot of comments. I spent some time today trying to go over the comments, and thankfully there weren't too many trolls. If you're watching this, I hope if I commented on, replied on your comment, I hope you enjoyed it. Escape from California Part 2, speaking about Chico, California. If you look on a map of California, it's of course north of San Francisco and Sacramento. It's a town of, I believe, about 40,000 people. And from what I've gathered, they're all Satanists of different stripes, witches. They also like to refer to themselves as pagans. Unbeknownst to me, at the time, I look back, I'm making this video, well, what went down was 6 years ago, almost to the day. I arrived in California, I think the 7th or 8th of January 2012. Kind of a review. My father passed away in December 2011. I had written a screenplay a couple years before, literally put it on the shelf. I knew what it was, which was ungodly and unholy, and I just decided at that time to grab my screenplay, and I had a small life insurance for my father, and I decided like a fool to go out to California. Well, when I got to Chico, it was funny. A lot of folks asked me out there, they said, well, why are you here? What brought you here? And the reality of the situation was, a couple years earlier, I had been up to Redding and Lake Shasta, and I fell for this girl. And it turned out that when I got up there, close to there, I tried to call her, and she was in prison, according to her mother, on a drug charge. So, in entering Chico, I thought to myself, well, Redding 60 miles north. I had been through the town a couple of years earlier on my way to Redding, and it looked like a nice little town. It's a college town. I says, well, this would be as good a place as any to hole up in a motel and work on my second draft of 13 years later, meet some folks and just chill out. Well, it turns out, like I said, the town is a wicked and evil place. I would implore you or encourage you to look into the town of Chico. As a matter of fact, it was founded over 100 years ago by an occultist. And apparently the town has, if you know anything about ley lines, the town has ley lines through them. And there's actually some, just satanic geometry in the way they laid out the streets. I don't know. I found it online, but this was after the fact. Needless to say, I got into the town, got a motel room, and started checking the place out, and creepy things started to happen immediately. In an overview, it was like I was behind enemy lines. I was God's secret agent in that sense. God allowed me to end up in that town and pulled the veil back, the spiritual veil back, and allow me to see the devil's camp, so to speak. It was scary. And also want to say a message to my enemies. If anyone from Chico or from California, part of the Satanic Brotherhood is watching this, my hope and prayer is that you come to Christ as your Lord and Savior. The devil's a liar. He might give you power. You might seem to think that you're having a good time. But ultimately, he's a liar. And if you fall for his lie, you're a fool. I mean, if you're a Satanist, you've been lied to and told that the devil's going to win the battle of Armageddon and you're going to rule on earth with him. No. You're going to burn in the lake of fire for eternity with the devil. So don't be a fool. Oh, and also I have my little notes here that I made. After I got out of California, some months couple months went by, and I went on the University of California Chico website, and it was interesting. I believe they since changed it, but if you do some research and start digging around, you'll see evidence online and on the web that validates my story. When I looked up their website, of course, they're all wearing black or variations of black, and even on the website there, they had, I believe, the English department. And this website is their official website. It's for young people, to encourage them to check the college out or whatever. They have an admissions department. But it was interesting that on their website had one kid holding his hands up like this, and another kid was holding his hands up in a kind of a Luciferian salute, with his hands. I can't really do it now. It was a while ago. But check it out. Check it out. It's right there in your face. Let's see. I wasn't there long when I realized, I was there 2 or 3 days. And when I got there, I wanted to say, I got off the Greyhound bus, and there was one cab driver waiting there. I mean, when I say a Greyhound station, it wasn't even a station. It was just, outside of a restaurant. There was one cab driver, one taxi, waiting for me. And he turned out to be what's commonly referred to as a handler. He was commissioned, apparently when I got in California, these devil people, they knew me. They knew me, and that's a story in and of itself. I used to be an evangelist 20 years ago. I was a young man. I had just gotten born again, filled with the Holy Ghost, and I traveled around the country as an evangelist, and I ran in to a coven in Lewiston, Montana. And that's a whole other video. We battled it out, and by the grace of God, Christ wrought the victory. There was many young people saved, and it was awesome. But it was war, and that's the first time I believe that I got on these people's radar. When I say war, it was insane. There was these young people that came to hear the preaching. They took their dog and killed it in front of the church. It was warfare. That's a whole other video. But needless to say, I've been on these people's radar. And when I got there, they let it be known to me that they've been watching me, which was insane. But anyway, when I was a young person, between the ages of 18 and 21, I got heavily involved in the occult. And I guess now looking back, I guess what they consider a dabbler. I had associates and people that I hung with that were heavily into Satanism and witchcraft, people I grew up with. And thankfully, I never got to the point of sacrificing animals or anything like that. But at the same time, I was possessed and oppressed. Prior to being born again at 21, I was a believer, in the sense that, I bowed at the altar of Led Zeppelin and Jim Morrison, and they were my idols and my prophets and preachers. And sadly, to this day, I could probably recite all the lyrics to all the songs of Led Zeppelin and the Doors, because that's how much I was obsessed and possessed by this satanic garbage. So the point is that I have a background prior to being born again. I have a background of being, involved in the occult and witchcraft as a young person, and I rubbed elbows with some satanic people. And a code word for somebody like me who was involved in the occult and witchcraft, and then turns to Christ, the code word that these Satan worshippers use is pig. Apparently, do research. You look at the Sharon Tate murders, and apparently her and Roman Polanski were part of this satanic movement in the late 60s. And her being pregnant with her child, she had started to second guess her decisions to worship the devil. And then she turned around and expressed a desire to get out of Satanism, out of that whole lifestyle that she was living. She did not want to bring up her child in that satanic environment. So you look at the front door, old pictures of the crime scene, and they painted in blood pig. Okay, and that's a satanic code word for somebody who who desires, or someone who leaves Satanism and devil worship. And interestingly enough, I was in a bar there in Chico, and they called me a pig. If you've ever, I wanted to mention this too, if you ever look at I believe it's Sung Zi or Zhu, I'm butchering his name, I'm sorry, but there's a Japanese fellow who wrote a book called The Art of War. And when I was out there in the midst of these freaks, the best thing that could have happened, which did happen, was them underestimating me. See, they've been so brainwashed, and that Satan has infinite power and that God has no power, that I slipped in there, and when I escaped from them, it was a miracle. It was a straight up miracle from God, and I thank God for His grace and mercy. Because I wrote someone today in a reply to a comment that I should be a headless corpse in the Nevada desert. I shouldn't be here. If I hadn't gotten tortured and killed by these people, I would have went to prison, because I literally had that attitude of fighting my way out of there. But we'll get to that. So I got in there and turn my card. I got into Chico, and I guess my desire at the time in my heart was to destroy myself with drugs and alcohol. That was my whole reasoning in going to Northern California in the first place. I had $15,000 to $20,000. I realistically wanted to kill myself, to overdose. I look back on it now. I had literally $1 million screenplay, and this 13 years later script was going to put me in the big time. But if I was realistic about it, and I wasn't so wrought with self-hatred and self-loathing for leaving, backsliding, and just broken over my father's death. He had a stroke in, I believe, 2008, and I nursed my father until December 2011. So my father and I, of course, were really close, and I was broken. But I was going to say, realistically, I should have went to Hollywood if I really wanted to get this script off the ground, so to speak. But like I said, I knew this girl in Redding. I figured I'd go up there, party like a rock star, and work on this script, and later go to Hollywood, which I eventually did. So I get to the bus stop. The cab driver, he was my handler, and he was there to introduce me to the coven, to the Satanist world. And they tried to seduce me. Realistically, as a backsliding Christian, I would never turn to Satanism. But interestingly enough, they had a code word for a preacher, a servant of the living God that turns to Satan, and his name is Sam Kinison. That's what they called me. I mean, they took me outside. You couldn't, of course, smoke in the bars there in California, so you went outside to smoke, and this fella standing there next to me and says, "Oh, so you're a Sam Kinison?" I'm thinking to myself, Sam Kinison. And I thought, yeah, okay, now I got it. Because if you weren't aware of it, Sam Kinison died some 25 years ago now, but he was a Pentecostal preacher. Traveled the country. His father was a preacher. I don't know if his brother was, but I don't know, of course, where he was at spiritually, whether he was playing a game with God or whether he was truly born again. But that's what they called me. So I go there, and the cab driver takes me to the motel, and slowly but surely, and I used him a lot, and he was like, he was right there. Anytime I needed a cab, I'd go to the store, and he's showing me around town. And it was weird, too, because when I got there, here this guy's a cab driver, but he's also the DJ at a local rock radio station. And it was crazy. It was like I go there and the world was my oyster. I was there a day, and he offered me a job as a DJ at this rock radio station. I just shook my head. I mean, I love music. I'm familiar, enough to do that. I know I could do that if I wanted that. But it was right there. It was right there, and it was so easy. I was just, I'm so used to in my life of fighting for anything and everything. Nothing comes easy, for me and my brother and sister. It's always, us against the world. And here I go to this strange town, and all of a sudden, like I said, the world is my oyster. So about 2 blocks away from the motel I was at, there was this bar. I believe it was called the Maltese. And if you're familiar with symbology and the occult, the Maltese cross is indeed an occult symbol. And as I started going around the town, I started to notice things like that, like this bar that had a black Maltese cross, huge, on the wall there, outside, on the building of the bar. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay. So as time goes on, I started, like I said, it was just a few days I was there, and I start, I'm on a binge. So where am I going to be? At bars. So another couple blocks away, I go to a bar, and kind of laying it out there and letting you know what this town was about. I'm drinking in this bar, and small talking, and yeah, I'm here, I'm a writer, and I'm working on my screenplay, and my father just died. But strangely enough, these people knew, this whole town, these people knew who I was. And they were playing me. They were seducing me. They were trying to, like Darth Vader and Luke, pull me over to the dark side. And doing everything in their power. So I'm in this bar, I'm drinking. All of a sudden, this old bearded man comes in with this beautiful girl. Now, he's got a guitar, she's got a violin, a fiddle. And they were in the bar playing for money. And I'm drinking, I'm having a good time, and I go and sit next to this fella playing a guitar, and I'm making requests, okay? And I'm singing along with him, and she's playing the fiddle. And I was having a good old time, man. I was singing The Doors and Led Zeppelin, and I said, he was like a human jukebox. I said, hey, man, play this, and he'd play it, and I sing, and this girl is going off on the violin. Now, I look over, never forget this for the rest of my life. I look over, and this girl's spinning in circles while she's playing the violin. And I look over, and she floats off the ground about a foot while she's spinning. And at that point, I'm like looking around, and hey, it was par for the course. I mean, no one was surprised except me. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, and then of course I'm drinking, so I'm like, wow, what am I, seeing something? But she did it again. Now at that point, I'm like, wow, this is strange. And my antennas go up, I'm like, whoa, what is going on here? These people, I got, beautiful, gorgeous women throwing themselves at me. I got this cab driver telling me that I could, be a DJ, just show up and they'll give me a job. All right, so little by little, things start happening. So right around this first 3 days, I also go to the local convenience store. And I'm buying and purchasing stuff, and the price will come up $13.13 or $6.66. And that happened more than once over the course of a couple days. Anywhere that I went, the price of things would either come up $13.13 or $6.66. And I'm like, what the, what is going on? And I'm tripping out. I never forget, I buy 2 beers. And I look at the guy, I look at the register, I look at the guy, and he looks me right in the eye and says, yeah, there's ghosts in the machine. That's the title of a Police album, which if you look into that album, it has a reversed 666, black cover. So he mentions that. He says that. Oh, wow, there's ghosts in the machine. So I started to realize that there's something strange about this whole situation, this whole town. And like I said, they started to court me. They started to try to draw me in and pull me in, little by little, incrementally, just trying to, like a fly that's caught in the web, but he doesn't really realize it. They're trying to pull me in to this situation. So I think about it, 5 or 6 days go by, and I'm kind of checking out the bars and kind of, meandering around. And I got drunk one night on vodka. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, I had a candle in the room. And I'm sitting there, and I'm working on my screenplay. I'm listening to some, that rock radio station in town. And I have this candle burning, and, I'm just chilling out. Next thing you know, I look up, and the flame of the candle is turned into 2 eyes. Okay? Like if you can imagine a flame of a candle, and then it doubling. And things got dim in the room, and I'm looking up in shock. And I'm realizing that a demonic entity is speaking to me, talking to me. And at that point in the game, being intoxicated, and like I said, when I got to Chico, it didn't take me long. I wasn't there a week, and I had, an ounce of cocaine, 2 ounces of weed, a bunch of Klonopin, and, that's another reason I went to Chico, because there's a brewery there. They make Sierra Nevada beer, and at that point, I had loved that beer. So I'm like, cool, man, you know what I mean? Anywhere else across the country, $10 a 6-pack. Out there, because they make it right there in Chico, it was like $5 or $6. So me being at the time the alcoholic I was, I'm like, well, that was another reason too, the brewery. The college, because of, young women there, and being, a college environment, being a writer, I figured I kind of fit in. The brewery there, and like I said, on my way to Reading, hey, I just wanted to pop in and check it out for a couple days, and like I said, it's a town of 40,000 people, and they're all Satanists. They're all devil worshippers of various stripes and, dare call it, denominations. But it was creepy as hell. Get into my cards here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, here we go. So I was there, and like I said, it took about a week, 4 or 5 days. And I realized, and then while I was there, I bought a car. I found a 1975 or 6 Nova, which was in really good shape, and me loving Novas and Chevys, I just couldn't resist. So here I am, I get stuck in this devil worship town, right? These people are playing me, trying to seduce me to go full force and full effect into their coven. But ultimately, like I realized that I would have signed the contract, and then they would have killed me, or I would have had a fatal overdose or crashed a car into a tree, whatever. They wanted me to be damned, and and it was funny too. These folks, they're all using drugs and drinking, and when you're around them, it was funny. When they were intoxicated, they would show their true intentions. It was like the demons in them couldn't resist but to throw it in my face as to their true intentions. So that was enlightening too, to be in a bar or be in a situation where people are using drugs and drinking, and you're seeing through, you're seeing through them. Because like I said, drunk or under the influence of drugs, their true intentions came out. And like for example, at this motel I was at, I met 2 brothers, Jimmy and Johnny, and I nicknamed them the Creepy Brothers because they had the the vibe of killers and child molesters. I mean, they were just straight, whoa, you know what I mean? I met them. I bought this Nova. I'm working on it in the parking lot of this motel. They come out of the room, and apparently they were homeless, you know, kicked out or whatever, and they were staying in this motel room, and they were just creepy as hell. And they'd start talking to me about the car, and you know, and helping me. I had the hood up, and I'm talking to them, and I saw through them. You know, after about a week, you know, to be honest with you, you know, what happened was I was there a week, and I realized where I was. I realized what these people were. I realized that they knew that I was a, you know, Bible-believing Christian, backslidden or not. They knew that. And I knew that ultimately their desire was to destroy me. And after about a week, I started playing along with these people. I started to you know, talk to them and interact with them and pretend, because in my heart of hearts I knew what these people were about, and I knew that I would never become one of them. But I was playing them. I was playing along. Ultimately, my desire was to get the hell out of there. But you know, when you've lost your father and you're on alcohol and drugs, you're not making the best decisions. And as I got there, I realized that this thing was big. You know, meaning that these people wanted to straight up kill me. I could see it in their eyes. I could see it in their attitudes. I was in the post office, right? And I'm in the line. And I look around out of the corner of my eyes, and I realize that everyone is wearing black. Black, or variations of black. And I'm starting to see occult symbols. Pentagrams, and you know, the moon and star of Diana, and in these different variations of occult jewelry, the Ankh, on everybody. And I'm standing, and I was there about a week, and I'm standing in the line of the post office, and it was strange because I walk in and people are kind of chatting, and I get in line and people aren't saying a word. They're not saying a word to me, they're not saying a word to each other. And it was a long line. There was about 12 people in there. And as the line, as I got closer to the desk, I overheard a girl say, like hiss, you know, he doesn't know where he's at, but he will, you know, and I'm, you know, real evil. And I start tripping out. I start having a panic attack. I start imagining Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone coming out of the wall and saying, welcome, you're in the Twilight Zone. I mean, it was like, this can't be happening to me. You know, so I get up to the post office, and of course, you know, I start playing along with these people because I realized where I was, and I was like, you know what, let me start investigating this. Let me start talking to these people like I'm one of them. You know, let me start, you know, just because I didn't know what else to do. I felt like I was trapped, which I was, and there was nothing, you know, every day that went by, you know, it was getting worse. You know, of course, my paranoia, and just realizing that I was in over my head. I told this cab driver, I says, man, I'm in the deep end, and I'm with sharks, and you know, I'm in trouble. He goes, no, you could swim. He basically told me, we're going to accept you, we're going to receive you, and, you know, become one of us, basically. And like I said, besides the girl floating off the ground in that bar, I'm driving in the cab with the cab driver. I forget his name, but his eyes turn black, like they call, you know, you hear black-eyed children. Well, his eyes turned completely black once as he turned to me. So as Jimmy and Johnny, I talked with them once. They came over, I was drinking beer, and we smoked a bowl or something. And they would start saying things in this witch language. The one brother, Jim, told Johnny, he says, hey, he's just a leprechaun going for the gold at the end of the rainbow. You know, so I knew that was in reference to me selling my screenplay and, you know, getting paid, so to speak, but there's an occult, witchy connotations to that. And also another thing he once said was, yep, here we go, we're going to F another one. Speaking about me, speaking specifically about a Christian. You know, and I think once I bought the car and got it running, I drove, they used to say, hey man, let me show you this river and, you know, whatever. I says, oh, okay. You know, I had a 12-pack. I was kind of loaded. And we went out there, and I'm talking to him. And he's got a laptop computer, right? So he's talking to somebody on the computer. Now, it wasn't Skype, but he's emailing somebody and talking with them. And you know, kind of, I could tell he was reporting to his superiors my reactions and what I was saying and how I was acting and everything. So at this point, you know, I've never acted, you know, in a play or anything like that, but I became a good actor. I played along with these fools. I played them back. I acted like I was on board, that I was down, okay? Because at this point, I'm like, all right, well, I have to get out of here. But I have to get out of here, you know, scot-free. I have to escape this situation. Now, looking back at that point with the car, and that was another thing, too. I bought this car, and they deliberately sold me a car that the title was screwed up. That was another thing, too. I bought the car. I was there 4 or 5 days. I had $15,000, $20,000 at my disposal, and I says, well, I need a car. So I found this car, and, you know, I was all hyped up on alcohol, coke, and pot or whatever, and I didn't really pay attention like an idiot. I didn't pay attention to the title. So I go to sign the title, and okay, I just glanced at it, you know, the pink sheet. I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to get insurance and to register the stupid car, and the thing was, you know, they had this kid sell me a car, and then he disappeared. It was like, he sold me the car, I gave him $1,500, whatever, I gave him $1,000, whatever, for this car. It's a good car, but it was uninsurable. I couldn't register it. I was like stuck with this car, and this kid, they deliberately set it up to where he disappeared. Changed his number the next day, so I'm like stuck. I'm stuck in this, you know, scuzzy, devil-worshipping town with this cool car that I can't insure, I can't do anything with it, can't register it, nothing. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do now? You know, so it was insane. So, yeah, another thing, too, is when I'm interacting with Jimmy and John for those couple days, you know, they're throwing these, you know, like I said, the leprechaun going for the gold at the end of the rainbow. He also said something to the effect, you know, you're very perceptive. Like, basically, you know, I don't know if he said this exact words, but basically he was telling me that, you know, oh, so you're catching on now, aren't you? You're realizing who we are, where you are, and what's happening. You know, so, yeah, it was insane. So, the days go on, I'm stuck with this car, and I'm trying to fix it up, so there was something to solenoid that had to get changed and a few things. So I'm trying to get this car on the road. But I'm afraid once I leave Chico with this uninsured, unregistered car, I'm going to get pulled over somewhere and you know, I'm going to, you know, get a ticket, go to jail, get it towed, whatever. So in the midst of this, look, you know, I was backslidden at the time. I'm just going to lay it out there. That's just how I was living. You know, I was with this girl, gorgeous girl. She was a barmaid at this bar up the street from, you know, this motel I was staying at. And I really fell for her. I was really, you know, like, hey, let's hang out. You know, so I was, you know, messing around with her and the first few days, and she tells her friend behind the bar, she says, and I heard her whisper to her friend, she says, I am being ordered to be with him. And, you know, it's getting deep, ain't it? Yeah. So I'm like, thinking to myself, ordered. And I gave her a copy of the 13 Years Later, and you know, I mean, like I said, I was hanging out with this girl, and she was gorgeous, and you know, we were partying together, you know, and I heard those words, I am being ordered to be with you. And I'm like, this is insane. I go outside to have a cigarette. This guy comes, saddling up next to me. And he goes, yeah, you dig her, you like her, you want to be with her? And I'm like, yeah, man, heck yeah. He goes, she has a boyfriend, right? I'm like, what? I know a boyfriend. Yeah, he lives up, in the mountains, whatever. I don't know. There was, it's the Central Valley of California, surrounded by mountains. And he goes, well, Sean, that's when I was called a Sam Kinison. He says, oh, you're a Sam Kinison. I'm thinking to myself, oh, there's a reason he's calling me that. And there are rumors that Sam Kinison, when he left the ministry, went to Houston, Texas for a few years as a comedian and eventually went to Hollywood. There are rumors that Sam Kinison literally became a Satanist, renounced Christ, and if you look at his comedy, it was very blasphemous. There was a hatred for Christ. I mean, he did a bit. I can't even watch it. I mean, I remember it from when I was, a teenager, seeing it, and it was shocking. I wasn't even saved, but, he mocked Christ on the cross. I mean, the guy was a straight-up blasphemer, and they're associating, me with him. So there was rumors of him holding satanic, worship services or whatever. Leading a coven of comedians in Hollywood. There's rumors. Check it out online if you can find it. So the time goes on. It's going to be a longer video, but the time goes on, and they basically told me that if I want to be with this girl, they will kill her boyfriend. Just, in their words, move him out of the way. Which they were telling me they will kill him for me. I'm numero uno, the new man on the block, and whatever I want I can have. And it was scary as hell. So that happened that night, and I never went back to that bar. And it was the same bar that the girl floated off the floor playing the violin. And I'm like, no thank you. And I'm still, delusional, thinking that, I could get out of this unscathed, that I can continue being in this place, and nothing bad's going to happen. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if you've ever had a problem with alcohol and drugs, but, they're poison. They're poison. And, I was under the influence during this time. I met a young woman. Her name was Kim. So I left this girl, who claimed to her friend that she's being ordered to be with me. I'm like, this is bizarre. This is bad. And they're going to kill her boyfriend for me. I'm like, this is bad, man. So I meet another woman, another young woman. She was beautiful. Her name was Kim. And Kim, if you watch this, if you see this, I'm here, ain't I? Because greater is He, Jesus Christ, that is in me than he that is in the world. Y'all tried. Y'all tried to kill me. You might get me one day, but hey, I'm here 6 years later. So Kim, it was a taxi driver. I even forget the other girl's name, Cherie or something. But Kim was to be my handler, in that sense, my introduction. She was the one who actually, so I met her and we start partying. Right, we start, getting together, and it got deep. She laid it right out there because at that point, they knew that I knew, The Jimmy and Johnny actually gave me a TV combo DVD player. You ever see them? And they gave it to me, and gave me The Matrix movie, and said, you sit down and watch this. This will tell you what's happening to you. And I'm thinking to myself, what do you mean? I've seen The Matrix, but I can't even watch. I won't watch The Matrix today because it brings back all the memories of being in that place. So I watched The Matrix, and Mr. Anderson, we've been watching you, and I started watching it in the context of what I'm going through, and they used references like, yeah, you're gonna, you're coming out of the Matrix, and when you get initiated into the satanic coven, you're coming out of the Matrix, and you're going to be part of us, and all this mess, So I was hanging with this woman, Kim, and I was hanging with her for about, 10 days until the day I left. And I won't get into all the details, but I videotaped her on a camera phone. And I looked at it the next day, and Kim shape-shifted. Okay? She shape-shifted on video. And it was one of the freakiest things I've ever seen in my life. And when I mean shape-shifted, her skin turned green, her teeth turned into fangs, and it was ugly. It was scary. It was, like, I'm out of here kind of type deal. This is getting deep. But Kim is the one who sat me down, okay, and we're all high on drugs and alcohol, and she sat me down and said, this is the deal. You're going to be initiated into this coven, and we want you. And, she also told me her family came from a group of Louisiana witches from the swamps of Louisiana outside New Orleans. And they had been there since slave times. Whatever. It was demented. Okay? It was demented. And, another thing too, I know this video is getting kind of long, but when I printed, I had my screenplay on a chip, and I went to Kinko's to print it, and they gave it back to me, and they gave me a message. Yeah, they put a message in there, and also the word count. The word count of my screenplay was 18,666. Well, I flipped when I saw that, and they put a message in there to me. They wrote a message to me in the script. They communicated with me. I'm going to end with this because, like I said, I'm not glorifying the drugs and alcohol and that whole hedonistic lifestyle I was participating in. I was out there those 3 weeks in Chico partying like a rock star, chasing, a bunch of women and having beautiful young women throw themselves at me. It was an experience that I never experienced before. It was insane. It was nuts. It was demonic. It was sinful. Okay? If you're watching this, I'm not glorifying what all went down and how I was living at the time. But I've since repented. And by the grace of God and by the blood of Jesus Christ and His cross, I've been forgiven. And it was only the love of Jesus Christ that saved me. And so, yeah, this thing's going almost an hour. But basically, the last week I was there, I was biding my time to get out of there, to escape. I decided that it was worth the risk driving a car out of there with a bad pink slip and no insurance at that point. I was just biding my time to get out of there. Kim was on the hip now. I couldn't get rid of her. Okay, she was, Kim, apparently, I got freaked out by this girl who said she was being ordered to be with me. And then Kim came along right after this girl, and I guess, they decided, well, he's going to be with Kim now. And she laid it down for me. And I'm playing along, knowing in my heart of hearts that I'm out of here. I am out of here. I'm so out of here. So I'm biding my time, and basically the last night, which was, I want to say, January 30th, I have all my ATM records I got from the Chase Bank, so I can kind of trace back as to the days and times and where I spent money and where I was. But basically, I went to a bar downtown Chico, so I ditched Kim. I'm like, I'm going out by myself. I'm going to a bar. So I go to the bar, and these people, they're on the other side of the bar, and they said something to the effect, it's not what you know, but who you know. Another reference to, their involvement in Satanism and all that. And I'm at the bar actually, editing my screenplay, working on it. And I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and this kind of stereotypical older gypsy woman comes out behind me. I offer her a cigarette, so I'm standing there, and she says, quote, "I kill babies and drink their blood." I didn't know what to say. I was in shock. I turned my head away from her. I looked down at the ground, and I'm like, I have to leave. Now. I have to go. This is too much. I have to leave. These people are child murderers. I have to go. There's 40,000 of them and one of me. But I have to leave. I have to split. This is over. So, that was the test. That was the test. If I would have turned to that witch, if I would have turned to that gypsy and looked at her and said, I don't care what it takes, I don't care who I have to hurt or kill or whatever, I want my screenplay sold, I want $1 million, I'll join your coven, I'm in, let's do it. If I would have said that, they would have received me, so to speak. I probably, and that's another thing too, with the grace of God. In the midst of all this, it was a battle. Okay, I had the devil on my left hand and God on the right. Okay, and I'm being pulled, and it was literally like when Jesus in the Word of God taken up to the mountain and offered all the kingdoms of the world by the devil. It was literally like that. Okay, I was set up on a mountain and told by the devil, if you bow your knees to me, I will give you whatever you want, but you have to serve me. And I have Christ in His mercy, laying the Word of God like a brand on my heart. What shall a man gain if he gain the whole world but lose his own soul? You're going to die and go to hell, Sean. Is it worth it? Is all the women and money and drugs in the world worth it? And of course, it's not. What shall a man give in exchange for his soul? I was there 3 weeks, and you know what? I was partying, but I was not happy. Only Christ can give you peace. I was miserable. And so that was the test. That was the test. I go back to my place. I go back, and Kim looks at me, and she knew that I rejected the offer. She knew it. I says, yeah, I was outside of a bar tonight. And, hey, I met a gypsy. And I was shaken up. And she goes, I know. I sent her. And I'm like, I have to go. I have to leave. I have to go. Exit stage right. I have to go. So, I'm in shock, complete shock at this point. Because I know what went down. I know that I was tested. I know that I failed their test, so to speak, because that was the entrance fee, was my soul, and hurting an innocent child, which is horrible, but I should have known better. Like I said, at that point I felt trapped, because now, Kim was on me, like white on rice. She was on me. There was like no getting away from her now, no escaping this situation, and it was just straight up evil. So what happened was when they told her that I rejected their offer, I sat there in shock. Never forget watching Night Court, but listening to Kim. This guy comes over. I never seen him before. We were in an apartment. I never seen him before in my life. They go into the bedroom alone, and they're talking. And they're talking about me. And I assume he was part of Kim's coven, and they were commissioned, because Kim became my handler, so to speak. They were commissioned to kill me. But not only to kill me, apparently their plan was to get me out of the state, get me, I think from what they said, outside of Vegas, Nevada. And and to torture me and kill me. And it was funny because here I am in that living room listening to every word that Kim and this scumbag guy that came over were talking about. They said, I'm a big man, right? So they said, oh, well, we're going to have to get a Ford Taurus to put him in the trunk. Or we have to, they were talking about getting a bigger car. They were talking about a coven, their people in Vegas to help them do this. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, when these Satan people, devil people, are under the influence of drugs and alcohol, their true intentions come out. So here they are, and I'm listening to them. I'm outside of the door, I'm in the hallway, and I'm like, all right, this is it. I'm out of here. And, whatever may come down, I am out of here. This is it. Over. Game over. And it was the aliens, man. Game over, man. Game over. So it was done. So this guy leaves. Oh, and they're also talking about giving me Xanax or, downers, Valium to knock me out or whatever. They're talking about poisoning me with drugs. They're talking about getting me out to the desert, how they're going to do it, the vehicle they're going to use, and all this stuff. And that how, that I might not fit in the trunk and all this mayhem. So this dude leaves. She comes out. I could tell, they've been smoking, whatever, crack or speed or whatever. Her eyes are rolling in her head. I could just see the demons coming out of her. And she says out of her mouth, she says, well, earlier before the dude came back, or the guy came over into the house, into the bedroom to talk to her, she was told, oh, he's not down. He's not going to join us. He's not going to, kill a little infant and drink its blood. And I'm like, this can't be happening. I couldn't, and all this time I'm having like anxiety and paranoia, and the use of the drugs and alcohol are not helping. I'm just like losing my mind. Okay, all through this, and I'm like, this can't be happening. This happens in Stephen King books. This can't be happening to me. I'm like, this is insane. So she comes out and says, oh, we were just watching a movie. I think she said Chris Rock or something. I don't know. But she was insane. She was talking to me about what they were planning to do with me. She said, we were just watching a movie and Chris Rock got scalped and, he put, something to the effect, she basically came out and told me. Talking about it now. Yeah, she came out and told me. But she kind of tried to mask it in a movie. But she said it earlier, too. A few days earlier. Because I was just on drugs and alcohol, and I was, like, trapped. And I said, what are you all going to kill me? Put me out of my misery. Trying to be, quote-unquote, a badass. Sorry for the cussing. But, she says, no. She says, we're going to take you, capture you, bury you up to the neck, scalp you, pour fire ants on your head. I don't know if you've ever been bitten by fire ants. When I had no little experience with them, but I went in the woods once and I was praying. And I actually was kneeling on a mound of fire ants. So I, got bit up, but I couldn't imagine being scalped and having thousands of fire ants eat your scalp, eat your brain. But that was their plans for me. She told me, this is what we're gonna do, and you can't do nothing about it. Oh yeah. In the next video, I'll get into my escape. These people chased me. I did the calculations. They chased me for 3,000 miles. They chased me basically for a month. 2 of those weeks, I put myself in a hospital. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, because I was I was on the street, and these people were coming at me like gangbusters, and I was broke, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. But that's in a later video. I've had a lot of comments of people saying, "Wow, this is crazy, man. Man, it's just getting started." I'm telling you, it's just getting started. These people chased me from California, Chico, and then I went down to Los Angeles. Then I went up to Oregon. Okay, and then I ended up finally in Phoenix. Okay, because I knew people in Phoenix, and at that point of the game, these people are chasing me thousands of miles. And then when I went down to Los Angeles, they sent, a hitman after me. This guy, it was insane. I replied to a couple comments. Put your seatbelt on. Hold on to your hat, because it's going to be a wild ride. But ultimately, I want to give the glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because if he hadn't intervened, that night especially, I'd either be dead or in prison. Because at that point, these people have me trapped, and there's thousands of them, and they're telling me that, and I'm literally playing a game with them, and then they come at me like, join us or else, and this is what you have to do. And I'm like, heck no, y'all are idiots, yeah, right. I'm going to hurt a little baby. I'm going to join your coven. Right. Yeah, okay. Smoke another one. So, Kim, she's got this whole plan set up, apparently for the next day. And how they're drug me, throw me in the trunk of a car, and take me out to the desert, and torture me and kill me. And she made it real plain, And the crazy part is, talking about scalping, this gal Kim was part Indian, and I'll get into it. I want to make a whole video about what happened and how Christ intervened that night, because it's glory. Like I said, I want to give glory to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because as a lost sheep, as a backslidden sheep, I am the prodigal son. And he intervened and came to rescue me. So I will end on this. I know this is a long video. Y'all been asking for it. But yeah, Chico was, a town of devil worshippers. And don't take my word for it. Look it up on the internet. Not that you're going to find that necessarily, but do the research. Do the research of the town founders, the ley lines in the town. To start doing Google searches. Look up the, university, whatever it is, University of Northern California, whatever, the university there, and start, looking at the fact that most of these people are wearing all black or variations of black. You'll start seeing, on that website, occult hand symbols. It's there. It's there. And I love the fact that I have access to the internet. I can throw them under the bus. If you do Google search, Chico witches or Chico Satanists, there's not much on there. But, like I said, if you start digging, you can find out about the town founders. And, like I said, he was an occultist. I believe he was out of San Francisco, moved up to Chico, whatever it was, 150 years ago, and founded Chico, and founded it as a satanic place. Interestingly enough, when I start talking to these witches and Satanists in Chico, a lot of them are from other areas, even areas of the country. And then they find out about Chico. Oh, it's a town of Satanists. Let me move there. Another thing that happened, I was in a bar, and it was the playoffs. It was the Giants and the 49ers. And me being from back east, I was, everybody was rooting, of course, for San Francisco, and I was in my heart rooting for the Giants. I don't want these devil worshippers to win this game and win money and all this stuff, So yeah, I was in this bar, Giants win, and I'm like, cool, I was like, awesome, So yeah, while I was there, that was when they called me a pig. Yeah, I wanted to mention another thing too that happened in that same bar. But yeah, they did this thing. It was an occultic magical exercise where they all started simultaneously talking in a whisper, All of them. And I'm talking about 50 people in this bar. And then the sound of the voices got higher and higher, louder and louder and louder, into a crescendo. And they all did it simultaneously. And then they stopped and were silent and waiting for my reaction. And I shrugged my shoulders. I'm like, look, nothing surprises me anymore. But in the same bar, wow, this video's going over an hour now. The same bar, this drunk walked up to me. And I don't know this guy from Adam. You know, he comes up to me and says, hey, man. He goes, I own a pig farm not far from here. He goes, if you ever need to get rid of a body, you know, cost you $500. That is, you know, I'll end with that. Because like I said, this next video I'll talk about my escape and how, glory to God, how Christ intervened on me escaping. You know, because, but yeah, that's the kind of place I was in. You know, that's the kind of people these people are. Murderers and killers and wicked, evil people. I commented to someone today, I've never met more depraved people in my life. Never. And I come, you know, from the streets of Jersey where, you know, I rubbed elbows with some scum bums, you know. You know, running the streets, you know, when I was a kid. But these people, you know, took the cake. But let's put it this way. So here I am in this apartment. I got this whole town now of Satanists, 40,000 people. Cops, judges, everybody. Right? They all know that I'm not going to join them now. It's grapevine through the whole town. So now I'm a target. Now their plan is to take me alive, torture me, and kill me. And, you know, at that point, I reverted into, you know, Rambo the Terminator, meaning I got, you know, not that I'm some, you know, quote-unquote badass, you know, excuse my French, but at that point in the game, I realized that these people were dead serious. Not that I wasn't aware of that before, but, you know, I had played the game, and the game was over. You know, it was, you know, I was playing them, I was playing along like I was going to join them. So, you know, and then finally it got to the point where they laid it on the line. You're going to have to do X. You know, I don't even want to repeat that. It was so horrible. And I'm like, you know what? I need to get away, far away from these people as humanly possible. You know, and during that time, that last week, I was going to insurance companies. I was trying to get a hold of this kid who sold me the car. I mean, it was just a nightmare. I was trying to get out of there. And what happened was like I said, the Rambo thing. I got 2 jackets, and the jackets were like army jackets, and they each had like all these inside pockets and everything. And that woman, Kim, was in her room. And I went through that apartment, okay? I went through that apartment and got every knife, every steak knife. I found an 8-ball. I put it in a sock. You know, little, you know, Swiss Army knife. You know, where are we at? Anything. Weapons. Okay? I'm like, I am out of here. And nobody and nothing is going to stop me. You know, I am out of here. I didn't know what else to do. I'm in shock. So I take all these knives and weapons and fill my pockets with them. Like I said, I put an 8-ball, you know, in you know, cue ball in a sock. And thankfully, and I was able to get all of my stuff, or 90% of it, my clothes, whatever, out to the car. Kim never left the room. I was in shock. I couldn't believe it. I'm assuming she was in there smoking meth or whatever. But whatever she was doing, I don't know. But I was able to walk down the hall, past her room. I had a corner in this place where I had all my crap. And I, you know, opened the door like a ninja, you know, walked down this flight of stairs out of this apartment, opened my car, put the stuff in the trunk, all the while filling up my pockets with weapons. Because, I'm in a state of shock. I'm like, you know, this can't be happening to me, and nothing and no one is stopping me. You know, like, these people are child killers, game on. I'm out of here. And, you know, hey, this is like second level stuff. You know, it's like I'm on a different level, and I'm like, you know, out of that town. So to say all that, like I said, I you know, appreciate you watching my video. I'm going to make another one soon, which would be part 3, which would be my escape from Chico. And, you know, I tell you what, it just got deeper and deeper and heavier because as but Christ, I'll make the next video. Christ intervened, the Good Shepherd intervened on my behalf in leaving that place and spoke to my heart. And it was beautiful because it just expresses his love that he has towards me and towards us. Even if you're, you know, if you're backslidden or, you know, not living right, you know, he still loves you. He wants you to come back and return to him. And that's, you know, that's all that went down. You know, that I was, you know, I was doing it Sean's way. I didn't know what else to do other than, you know, get as many weapons as humanly possible and try to get out of there. You know, and by the grace of God, I was able to get out of there without Kim knowing, or even, frankly, any of them. I had a couple-hour head start, I think. You know, and looking back now, I made some mistakes. You know, I took my phone with me, which they were tracking. I eventually got rid of it, but you know, some heavy-duty stuff. But like I said, I want to, you know, elaborate on what Jesus said to me. He didn't appear to me physically. I didn't hear an audible voice, but he spoke to my heart. And it was amazing what he said. And you know, so I'll get into that next video. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know. Comment me if you have any questions relating to you know, my time in Chico. I've had, you know, some interest in my screenplay 13 years later, which you know, which was kind of the motivation of going to California in the first place, to cash in on my screenplay. But, you know, frankly, I made a vow to God on my way as I escaped and I realized that everything was going to be okay. I made a vow never to publish, never to promote or profit from 13 years later. I actually prayed to God that if anyone stole that screenplay or used it or whatever, that they would be under a curse. So, you know, that's how I feel about that, because that screenplay almost resulted in my death, spiritually and physically. And frankly, I don't want anything to do with it. You know, so I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, I'm going to make another video here soon, Lord willing, and y'all be blessed. Thank you.